talking about some techniques and exercises to help you practice your legato playing. This is a big topic because this is actually one of the harder techniques on trombone. This is mostly because we have a slide to worry about instead of valves like a traditional brass instrument. Before we get started, be sure to check out Matonizz.com. There you can download all of these exercises and a lot more of the materials in this video. So I like to think of legato playing in three aspects. That's air, articulation, and slide. All three of these work together to make a good legato, but let's talk about air first. I find that it's really important to have a constant, uninterrupted stream of air. So a great way to work on that is to practice your natural slurs. I'd recommend that you practice these flutter tongue first and then play them regularly. So let me show you an example of that. By flutter-tonguing first, you're ensuring you're using a constant stream of air. That's because for this vibration to happen, you really need to get your air moving. So whenever you play this exercise normally again, think about using the same sort of air as if you were flutter-tonguing. This really will help smooth out those note connections. And if you happen to be someone who can't flutter-tongue, another practice technique you can use is propping open your spit valve with a coin. So when you play, you'll hear air escaping from your slide, and the goal is to have no gaps in the airstream. You're going to have to use a lot more air than you think to fill all of these in. Both this and the flutter tonguing technique will really put your air under a microscope. You might have also noticed that most of these natural slur exercises incorporate a lot of alternate positions. This is just to avoid any glisses so everything can be slurred. Now that being said, a lot of times we're just not as familiar with these slide positions, especially like the ones in the second pattern. That's why I like practicing these exercises with drones. This will really help lock the pitch in place and find exactly where it is on the slide. I like using these tuba drones better than the electronic ones because it really feels like you're blending with a real player. I'll put a link to these in the description where you can download these along with a packet of all the exercises in this video. This next pattern is a little bit different than the last two. It's just a faster slur that goes all the way down the slide and back. I do this after I've done some slower exercises just to test my flexibility and to see how my airstream is doing. I wouldn't use drones for this since it makes less harmonic sense, but the important thing is to do it at a tempo that's comfortable for you. Intervals are also great for practicing your legato technique, just because of the very natural slur combinations. You're basically ensuring that you're practicing almost every possible note combination. Whenever possible, use natural slurs, even if that means using some alternate positions. And again, I like doing these over a drone, just to make sure I'm locking in my intonation. Although this exercise is a little bit more acrobatic, it's important to still focus on blowing a constant stream of air. If you're noticing some inconsistencies, resort back to flutter tonguing or try using that coin trick. I only extend this exercise to the upper B flat octave because this really isn't a high range exercise, it's just to improve your note connections. Now that we've talked about the airstream, let's talk about articulation. As a trombone player, it's really important to develop a good legato tongue. This is an exercise I use to work on that. I think of a very light da syllable and focus on leading with the airstream. It's really important to make sure that the tongue doesn't get in the way of the air. Your tongue placement will also change depending on what range you're playing in. For example, the higher I play, the higher my tongue placement is, and the closer it gets to the roof of my mouth. In the low range, my tongue placement is a lot lower, and even in between my lips in the pedal range. This is why I take this exercise up to high C and down to pedal B flat, so I can really get a feel for the difference. Next is this chromatic exercise that's all on the same partial. This is so you can combine your legato tongue with some slide movement. A good way to practice this is to gliss it first and then add in the tongue. Focus on leading with your air and imagine that your airstream is the same as if you were glissing. And once again, it's really important to not let the tongue get in the way of the air. I also like to practice 1-octave chromatic scales because these combine natural slurs and articulation. With these, I strive for matching my legato tongue to the sound of a natural slur. Now let's talk more specifically about the slide coordination. The most common problem trombone players have is moving the slide too early. This happens because we're always anticipating the next note and we're worried about the slide not getting there in time. For example, let's say we're moving from a B flat in first to an A flat in third. Most people think that they should move the slide right here, perfectly in between the two notes. If you do that, you're actually moving the slide too early, and you'll get a slight gliss in between the notes that'll sound something like this. To avoid that, you actually want to move the slide right here, much later than most people think. You're almost moving the slide right when you articulate. This will prevent that gliss, which will sound something like this. Let's talk about some exercises that can help you practice this. Practice this exercise with a metronome and focus on moving later than you think. This can be tricky at first, but slowly you'll get a feel for the right timing. A great way for you to check on that is to record yourself and play it back at half speed. This will make it really obvious if there's any gliss in between the notes. I'd recommend downloading Audacity. It's a free recording software that works both on Windows and Mac. After you've recorded yourself, just select your track and go to the Effects tab. Then select Change Speed, and you'll be able to set that to 50%. The goal is to sound like a really good tuba player, with no glisses in between any of the note connections. Now you'll notice as the notes get further away from each other on the slide, you'll need to move the slide faster to make up for that. This exercise will help you with your speed and your accuracy. By glissing first, you get a sense of how fast your slide needs to move in order to play the note on time. After you've gotten the hang of that, add a slight legato tongue. It's important to remember that just because your slide is moving faster doesn't mean you should add in any tension. Make sure to keep your elbows, shoulders, and your neck relaxed. So now that we've gone over all of the exercises, these are some musical pieces that will allow you to apply all of these techniques. This etude is Voldyne number 3. These are all great etudes to help practice legato playing. This one is specifically great because it incorporates a lot of legato tongue. Glissing, flutter tonguing, and all of the other techniques we talked about can be applied to this etude. You can download the piano track and sheet music at the link down below in the description. Along with this, another great way to practice your legato is by playing cello music. Here's an example of that. This is the prelude to Bach's second cello suite. I really enjoy playing these Bach cello suites. They're great pieces of music and they really help you improve your technique on the instrument. Not only are these great for your legato playing, but they also really help your flexibility. These pieces have some tough intervals that we normally don't encounter in regular trombone music. This is why it's great to practice music from other instruments. I'd recommend that you listen to some cello recordings and see if you can match that same ease of production that's a lot harder to achieve on trombone. So with all that being said, I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any questions about any of the exercises or if you want a lesson, feel free to comment below or email me at lukashelseltrombone@gmail.com. And once again, don't forget to check out Matonizz.com because there you can download everything in this video, the drones, the backing tracks, sheet music, and everything else in future educational videos. Let me know what topics you'd like to see covered next, and thanks for watching.